ladies and gentlemen, Alan Wake Remastered. The rating video for it. 5 sessions, no cheats, because I had no access to them. This run was funded by Nexus Oracle, aka Neko. Echo. Plus 24 to story. And negative 10 to gameplay. I didn't much care for the gameplay on this one, but it was actually a decent story. Better than I was expecting. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Alright, starting with the story positives, as per usual. Good voice acting, all throughout. I thought it was a double positive worthy. I like the largely unknown cast, as this cast is mostly TV actors, which I actually kind of like. I think there's good voice direction. I think there's good music direction. The brickwork was worthy of 2 positives, I felt, as was the doodad usage. I felt the animations were actually legit, and it feels as though they were painstakingly crafted to be as realistic as possible. I am actually legit impressed with them, considering this is this is essentially a 360 game. So triple positive for the animations. The pacing is exquisite. The pace of the story never really feels like it's dragging at all, even during episode 3 where I feel the narrative spins its wheels a bit too much. So, triple positive there. The story sequencing was also triple positive worthy in my opinion, despite the because plot moments in episode 3. It's split into episodes like it's a TV, like it's a mini series. So that's why episodes is what you're hearing me, is the term you're hearing me use. So the atmosphere and tone, I believe it was 1 for tone. Yeah, 1 for tone and a triple for atmosphere, because the atmosphere was just awesome. I also like the in-game radio and TV shows, which provide interesting background lore to the world of Alan Wake. I find the manuscripts are excellent foreshadowing, and in later episodes, they dive into the events. This rating video is going to get copy wrong, and I feel, but that's okay. If it gets partially blocked in Russia again, we'll know what's to blame. The banter between characters is well done and feels natural. There's some good internal continuity as well. 26 presentation positives. Let's get into the characters. Alan himself, triple positive. I love how human he feels throughout the entire game. Which makes sense because he's not meant to be this larger than life figure. He's just meant to be a guy. Hey. Sheriff Breaker has a brain in her head. Too bad Nightingale has to be an overbearing dick. Thank fuck it isn't because she's a woman. Because that would have just pissed me right the fuck off. It's like, really? Really, you're doing this? You're a woman, you're useless fucking shit? Like, piss off. Never dips into that. Sheriff Breaker's gender is never brought up once outside of the proper use of pronouns. You literally could swap Sheriff Breaker into the role, make Sheriff Breaker a man, and it literally would mean nothing narrative-wise. Okay, so. And then when she's an ally in episode 5, that was when I felt like she earned her second and third positive. At first, Barry is kind of annoying, but when he comes around, he is admittedly awesome. And him continuing to be awesome throughout the rest of the game after the stumble at the start, yeah, that's triple positive worthy. I also like the radio host Maine, as he's a cool guy, and the voice actor nails that he cares about people deeply. And then there's Odin and Thor. and Tor, or Odin and Tor. Is it Tor or is it Thor? I think it's Tor actually. Odin and Tor are just awesome. They may be crazy, hell, even they say they are, but they are still bros, and I love them. They're the rock star, the those old rock star dudes. They're awesome, and I loved almost every scene they were in. They weren't good enough to warrant multiple positives, but damn were they fun when they were on screen. So, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 character positives. Moving on to the moment positives now. This is an interesting setup and allows one to believe why Alan would struggle with the threats he faces. Which is set up wonderfully by the opening narration at the start of the first nightmare sequence. Then there's the sheriff's reaction to Alan in episode 1, which is just perfect. Love it. I also like episode 1 as an intro. It sets up the premise and has a great hook and is interesting to boot. Complete with an interesting ending stinger, which I liked. Right? The cabin is gone because it was quote unquote never there. That kind of thing. Cauldron Lake Lodge at the start of episode 4 is interesting and unsettling in all the right ways. It may be easy to call Hartman being a villain, short-lived as he is, assuming of course you aren't a boomer that thinks video games can never be art, or that rock and roll is a lesser genre of music. I've complained about that kind of shit in other videos, so I'm not going to drag this one down with that here. I like the discussion mission Alan and Barry have after the lodge. Barry says weird shit is going on, that's a fact, and that cemented this positive. He's basically looking at this like, okay, this shit makes no sense, but it is happening. Weird shit is happening, and I am acknowledging that weird shit is happening. I like that. The whole farm section is honestly really good and shows the friendship between Alan and Barry very nicely. Love that whole sequence. And then episode 4 is a vast improvement over episode 3 and actually progresses the plot and even has a good cliffhanger at the ending. I kind of like that. Then there's the banter in episode 5 specifically, which is very well done. And then episode 5 was an interesting and engaging episode and works on almost every level, which thankfully the only hiccup is right at the beginning. 47 story positives. Let's get into the negatives. I feel like we don't really get to know the characters well at all before they are yeeted from the plot. Alright. I kind of screwed up the order of these, so I'll skip over -2 and go to -3 real quick. The good old Cassandra truth. Alan says something weird is going on, and Barry don't believe him until he gets caught up in it. Yeah, thanks, game. Yeah, that's it. Just the 2 presentation negatives. Then there's the character negatives, specifically for Nightingale, who is a fucking piece of shit, which is a cliche that I am so fucking sick and tired of. And I was sick and tired of it when this game originally came out on the Xbox 360. 2 Xboxes ago. Oh. Soon to be 3 Xboxes ago. I played this on the Series X, if you're wondering. Then there's Rose acting weird as fuck at the beginning of episode 3, and neither Alan nor Barry pick up on that at all. Oh, sure game, make them out to be that stupid. Also, the scene with the drugged coffee is kind of annoying, as I feel like there was a movie that did this better in the 1960s. Dr. No, if you're wondering. Then there's episode 3, which I felt was kind of rough. as I felt like the story ground to a screeching halt to introduce the game's worst character, and given the stark contrast offered by episode 4, yeah, it was triple negative worthy. Then there's Agent Nightingale being yeeted from the plot, which is just downright unsatisfying, and we get nothing for him in terms of characterization, save for the manuscripts, and that is just not enough. With how much the narrative built him up, the payoff is just disinteresting, if you ask me. Hey, even if he is in Alan Wake 2, that doesn't matter to me, as I've said a bajillion times. Then there's the repetition of Alice being dragged away by Barbara. The shot of Barbara dragging Alice away, which is just, oh my god, stop that. Specifically in episode 6. I also absolutely despise the ending, as it is vague, interpretive. I hate interpretive endings, and is unclear on what it's saying. I also hate how abrupt it is, and how it feels like it's in the same vein as a lot of the out of horror of leaving the audience on a bum note, which is why I kind of hate the horror genre in general for the most part. Hurt. So triple negative there, which also led to a triple negative for episode 6 in general, which I felt fucking sucks. Nothing happens for about an hour of gameplay, and all the story beats would have worked better if they were tacked onto episode 5 rather than episode 6. Ix. If it was the tail end of 5, this outro would be amazing minus the ending, but as it stands, yeah, triple negative for the outro. And then there's the DLC. Crazy Alan in Special 1 is annoying as fuck, and his shtick is repetitive as fuck. Special 1 is also the worst episode so far, by far, as I hate it so goddamn much and feel it is a triple ending. And then Special 2's ending makes me ask what the fuck was the point of that, which is just plain rude. 23 story negatives. Let's get into the gameplay now. Oh, the options were a positive. The tutorial in the form of the first nightmare was a positive. I actually like the core combat, as I feel it is unique and actually pretty fun. AI, barring the one exception in episode 2, is legit in all the right ways, with special mention to Sarah in episode 5. Sheriff Breaker, if you're wondering who the hell little Sarah is. Itemization is excellent throughout the entire game, as it almost becomes too much. Like there's just too much shit all over the place. Ace almost, which honestly is not a bad problem to have, in all honesty. So triple positive there, and then 2 positives for the itemization, specifically in the DLCs. So let's talk about your flashlight for a second. When the game started, I figured the batteries would be a resource I'd have to manage, and I couldn't find out anything about what easy does different from normal. I'm guessing damage/health. But you only use battery power when using the intense light, which is awesome. Also, battery power regenerates, which is also awesome. Awesome. The only reason you're going to run out of batteries is batteries are kind of a insta charge. So effectively, what it is that, oh, my flashlight's out of battery. I can hit a button and boop. Now my flashlight meter my battery meter is is just got increased by a huge chunk while it's still regenerating, which I actually kind of like. So yeah, that was positive worthy. Holy crap! The mid-mission checkpoints are excellent, fast loading, frequent in all the right ways, and is easily a triple positive. I felt the pacing was excellent gameplay wise. I felt the encounter design is well thought out in general, with a couple of hiccups starting in episode 2. Well, in the main game anyway. Difficulty curve in the main game was really well done. Power progression curve in the main game via the upgrading flashlight is actually kind of nice. The compass is constantly a godsend throughout the game. Triple positive there. And I like the use of lighting in the main game. In the DLC, I actually really like the word mechanic on manipulating the environment by shining your light on words. It's a fun and unique mechanic, which also leads to some good gameplay story integration in the DLC. So 24 overall presentation positives on gameplay. Let's move on to individual bits. Episode 1 is a good intro, 2 positives there. The bulldozer fight in episode 3 was fun and interesting. I thought it was triple positive worthy. It was the best combat section in the entire game. It's one of the few bosses in the game too. The defend section on Odin and Tor's rock and roll stage, honestly, not fucking said, man. Fun, badass. Barry's timing is great, and the only instance of competent AI in the game. It's basically that section plus Sarah in episode 5, and that's your ally AI being competent. Not that you have much ally AI before that. You have one you have the crappy one in episode 2, and then Alan's completely on his own for the rest up until that defend portion, that defend section. So. And the banter with Barry just sells the hell out of it. So yeah, triple positive there for a grand total of 32 positives to gameplay. But the negatives were numerous. 42 of them to be precise. Let's get into it. Dialogue can be unintentionally skipped if you move too far. Surviving Lover's Peak in episode 2 is a bitch and a half. First, you do not have a gun, which means you have to rely on a stupid AI partner that is as useless as people claim Sheva in RE5 is. She has never been useless for me. And swarms of enemies that can easily blindside you. Oh, and this section is about a third too long. Yeah, triple negative there. It's not helped that the ally you have here is the only dumb ally AI in the whole game, so that was a separate negative there. Then there's episode 2 just kind of being bad overall. Worse encounter design, annoying ramp up on the difficulty, and just an overall miserable slog to get through. Also, and then there's the encounter rate in episode 3, which is just annoying as fuck, as are the encounters themselves. Of particular note is the shack you get the shotgun from, as there is just too many of them and they hit hard. Oh, and they can trap you in the corner if you get turned around. Yeah, not a fan. And thanks to the contrast offered by episode 4, episode 3 is just not fun on the gameplay axis either. Then there's the encounter rate in episode 5, which does kill the tension more than a little. And then there's the whole fucking bridge section in episode 6, which can die in a fire. Too long, shit flying at you from all directions, and being comboed is a matter of course. Then there's episode 6's encounter rate, episode 6's encounters, and then episode 6 as an outro in general, which is a triple. Ugh. Then we get into the DLC, and the DLC, as you might have noticed from the fact that the triple negative outro for episode 6, is brings us up to 17 negatives. Yeah, we've got quite a bit of bitching to do on the DLC. During Special 1, the enemies adore sneaking up behind you and blindsiding you, which was rare in 6 previous episodes, whereas here it's every single fucking encounter. Complete with the game, achieving this by focusing the camera on one enemy so another can hit you from behind, which is the shining definition of cheating. Fuck this encounter design, triple negative. Then there's the streetlight section, which would be awesome if not for it lasting too damn long, and having the Ninja Gaiden NES problem of it that if you go slightly away from the enemy, they respawn, which is the only possible because this is the only section so far to have infinitely spawning enemies. Yeah, triple negative there. Then there's Special One's final encounter with the TVs, which is a test of frustration, as it has horrible lighting and is just annoying with how specific it wants you to be with dealing with it. And then the enemies in Special 2 were no better, as they loved blindsiding you as well, complete with Terabad encounters, both aspects of those being triple negatives. And then the encounter rate was a triple negative in Special 2. God damn, that was annoying. And then the maze of Mindfuck isn't scary or even trippy. It's nausea-inducing, takes too damn long, and is so trial and error that even I fucking hate it. Yeah, that's a maze that is worth a triple negative. Then that fucking section with the onslaught of enemies and multiples clear traps, multiples clear traps to using is god awful. And once again, I think I worded that badly, but yeah, that the onslaught with enemies. I think that's when you're going through that canyon area. Ugh, that sucked. And then, despite the interesting elements, overall, I just was like triple negative for Special 2. God, I hated that. 42. 42 gameplay negatives. Yeah, that's Alan Wake Remastered. Decent game. Decent game. It's not a bad game. It's actually pretty decent for what it is. Not a game I'll ever play again, but I'm actually pretty glad I played it. So, not much for me to say. Short rating video, very simple, very elegant. I recommend looking through that whole going through the streams. Like I said, this is just kind of a wrap up and a kind of a final little addendum, you know. But yeah. Okay, for a second I thought that I had hit the end of the and I thought I'd hit the end of that, but apparently I did not, but that's okay. But yeah, that's Alan Wake Remastered. Decent game. I recommend at least checking it out. That's it. Next up is a bonus to the Alan Wake block, Alan Wake's American Nightmare. I'll see you in that one. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lorewalker signing out. Have a good one. See you in the next one.